Hey Commando heads, it's your boy, the Clippy Commander, here to code in your general direction for the next 20 to 60 minutes. Today, we actually have a to-do list. I have a few simple things I want to do for the next new update. They're mostly general things, and then I found a bunch of random bugs and unintended consequences of rushing things previously. First, we're going to start with adding some challenge stats. In the Pinata Challenge video, I said that I had reworked a lot of the saving and loading to use different systems, and that's been causing a lot of glitches. I decided that adding some more challenge stats would be a good way to showcase how I'm doing saving and loading. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of functions that can be called that return variables, usually all set to false. Stuff like whether or not a map has been unlocked, or a level has been completed, or what different medals have been obtained for a specific level. Previously, I was using some pretty bad systems. For infinite mode, I would have separate variables for whether or not each map was unlocked, so it would be something like this, where each separate map would have its own variable, and then each one would have another one for the highest wave obtained and the highest score, and how much time has been spent in that. And I would have to manually go through and add new variables and rename them and make sure all the names are the same. Using the new system I created, I just have a template that I can call, which is a lot easier if I can find, So I just have a global struct that creates another struct based on the template that was previously shown, and anytime I update the template, it'll update all of them, and all I need to do to access all of the stats within here is to know the tag of the level is, so just Western Rule Area or Quillshire Prison. It's a lot easier and better to create dynamic systems than it was before. So down here you can see these are all the challenge stats, how many of each have been beaten. But I wanted to make a general challenge template today so that I can just add some new stats. I was thinking times attempted, times beaten, and time spent in challenge, and then I can keep track of those pretty easily. Alright, so we're going to start up here. We just need to return a struct. A struct is pretty much a way to group different variables together, and it makes it a lot easier to manage. So we have our three variables here. Now all we have to do is get this initializing function, template function, whatever you want to call it. So before we do that, we have to create a challenge stats struct, which will contain all the other structs. So it's essentially a struct of structs. We'll need a different struct for each of the challenges, so I'll just say baby challenge, and then we have that initializer. The reason I do that is because the way that I save and load things to files, it essentially takes different structs and checks them against the default struct that is just in this script. The two types I have are just variable structs and structs of structs. For stats, it's all just variables. So we have just numbers and true or false statements. Pretty simple stuff to save and load. But when we go down to the infinite mode map stats, we can see that there are constructors inside of this struct. So we have, 20 different templates. And within these templates are even more variables. The way that I was doing saving and loading didn't allow me to very optimally load in these stats into memory and then manipulate them at runtime in the game. So what I have to do is I have to use a function to combine nested structs. So for something like stats, I just have to combine it with the default one. What that does is if there are any variables that have been changed, removed, renamed, it deletes the old ones, and then if there are ones that aren't in your save file, it will re-add them to the save file when you save and load, so there won't be any errors if you have, say, a save file from version 0.0.1. and you load it in 0.1.12, it should allow for seamless updates to what stats are in the game as I add new maps, enemies, modes, stuff like that. But for the challenges, this is relevant because I have to First, when I'm saving, I have to push the challenge stats struct of structs to the save file, which the way I do that is I just write a JSON string to the buffer and then save that buffer to a save file. Not really sure how that works, but it works pretty well. And this is the result of saving the JSON string to a buffer and then saving that buffer to a file. You can see all of the different stats. They're not really organized anyway at all, they're just pretty much random. But you can see these are just the base stats. It's just all of the stuff that was in the stat script. And then we have a struct of more structs. So these are the infinite mode maps. We have the scores times, whether or not you've unlocked the different medals, highest wave, stuff like that. But you can see that these are only structs of structs. So we only have nested structs within this struct. So when I load in the file when you're starting the game, what it does is it initializes the defaults, and then it goes through this function called combine nested structs, which pretty much looks at the keys or the variable names that are in the default and compares them to the variable names that are in the save file. So if, let's say, times died is in both the default and in the save file, it'll update the default with whatever number is in the save file. But if a variable doesn't exist in the save file, say I added a new variable called times revived, that's not in this save file, so that would throw an error otherwise, but what it does is it just initializes the default one as the default value, which would be 0. And then function discards any variables that are in the save file, but not in the default. So if I were to say, remove these two variables for how many times you've shot the shotgun or the sawed-off shotgun, once you save the game again, these variables will be deleted from both your save file and from the game's actual stats. So that's pretty neat. All I have to do now is to add all of these challenges to this struct of structs, and then when I save and load the game, it should remove all of the old ones that I had, so baby challenge attempted, easy challenge attempted, etc, etc. Those will be deleted from my save file. So let's see if I can find them. Yeah, baby modifier set beaten, all of these will be removed from the save file, and it'll add a new thing down here, which will have each of the challenge names with those 3 variables that we initialized earlier. Alright, so I have all of those challenges added, so once we build and get into the game, and then exit the game, it'll save everything, and we should have all these new stats. So I saved and loaded the game, and now when I search baby, it should only have that, yep, that challenge at the bottom. There's no other instance of baby in the save file, and there are now all of these various stats for all of the challenges. So now that I have that completed, I have to go through and remove any references of those challenge stats, because if I attempt to, say, add how many times I've attempted the baby challenge by 1, the game will crash because that stat no longer exists. Actually, I can show you that now. So if I just select baby challenge and then click begin game, oh. Well, that should have crashed. If I do stats, I'm like 99% sure it'll crash. Yeah. So you can see that poor modifier set beaten, the old stat. It's a little farther over, you can't see it because this window is too small. There it is. Global stats, poor modifier set beaten. That doesn't exist anymore, so the game crashes. I guess I wasn't incrementing how many times it's been attempted. Oh, I guess, no, I only had it for when it was beaten. The attempted is new. But I have to go through and update the stats screen, and then any time that it was mentioned anywhere else in the code. Alright, I found a pretty simple optimization I can make to the code. I just said baby challenge, easy challenge, all that. The way that I do it in the settings is when I name this the whatever challenge you're using with global.modifier set, I say mod underscore set underscore and then the name of the modifier set slash challenge. An easy thing I can do is just rename these variables to correspond with this, and then instead of manually typing all of these, global challenge set mod set baby times beaten incremented by 1 with this plus plus. Yeah, I can just check whether or not a challenge is being attempted, which I already do down here for the general challenges beaten, and then I can steal this guy and put him down here, and I can replace this part of the code with this funky little dude here, 2 brackets, a $sign I think it is, and then I can do global.modifier set. So what this does is it takes the struct of global.challenge stats, which you can see here is all of the different challenge names, and then this $sign, it takes this variable, so this would be a string, which is just a word in quotes. So if it's not none, it'll check through all of these until it finds the variable that corresponds to it. So baby challenge will be replaced with mod set baby, which is what the global modifier set variable will be, and then it'll find the variable of times beaten within that nested struct and increment it by 1. I could probably modify or remove the code for the Steam achievements and make these dynamic as well, but I'll have to do a little bit more there. So what this code does, pretty much it just replaces any instance of mod underscore set underscore with ACH underscore wave 25 underscore, which is the naming system that I use. And that should dynamically update all of the achievements. Now that all of those are updated, we can go on ahead and add the other 2 variables, so times attempted and times beaten. Those are pretty simple additions. Now if I start a baby challenge, it shall update this file with times attempted to be 1. So let's see if that worked. Didn't crash, that's always a good sign. Yay! So you can see here that it updated it, and every time you enter the challenge, it'll go up by 1. So that's pretty neat. Now to do time in challenge. And now when I start it, it should count up 1 for every frame that I'm in the infinite mode level, regardless of whether or not I'm paused or in the shop or actively in the fight, I guess. So let's see, I'll just mess around in here for a little bit. Classic. I love getting 8,000 points a shot. Yay! And then I will quit the game, and yep. And times attempted went up by 1, so that's pretty cool. So now that we've added those challenge stats, I'm just gonna mark that as completed for now. We have to update the stat screen, because remember earlier how it crashed the game? That's not really very cool. So these are all the stats for when you're on the stat screen. They're arrays of strings. This script just gets whatever the localized value for this index is. It's pretty much just a dictionary. You give it a input and it returns an output from whatever current language is loaded. Right now there's only English because I only speak English, but I just added that in case in the future if I ever wanted to translate it into other languages. And then this function just converts an integer into a string. There are a couple more. Yeah, a determined time played. So that'll convert frames to time in the format of hours, minutes, seconds, and just make it look nice. So I'm gonna make a general function for the challenge mode, because right now all of this will crash the game. So I added all of those in and finished up the function. Hopefully this should work. I just organized them arbitrarily. This is just the order that they were created in. Later I'll go through, I think in here they're listed alphabetically? Yeah, there's like the easy, normal, baby, hard, whatever, and then everything else is listed alphabetically except for Pinata Challenge. I haven't organized that. And then literally unplayables at the bottom because no one's gonna play that. Let's see if it crashes. Oh, still crashes. So let's see. Okay, I guess I just didn't save the file. This file, I have to save it manually before loading the game, or any new things won't be added to it, and the variables will be undefined, which means that they don't exist, and the game has no idea what to do with it, so it'll crash. This looks pretty terrible. So, let's fix that up a little bit. It's not as good as I would like it to look. It looks a bit awkwardly spaced. Don't know why that is, but you know, it's good enough for now. It gets all that across. I might add another tab over here for challenges if if I can find the space to fit it in. There's already so many tabs. But it does work. You can see converts the time you spent in it, baby time. It converts it from however many frames it was like 15.6 seconds, converted it to 16 seconds, and it looks all nice. It's pretty cool. If I've beaten one, here I'll update my stats and remove that baby time thing. I guess the save file wasn't being saved correctly, but I updated it again, put in a random time. You can see that the percent beaten does work, and that the time displays. You know, let's check that actually. Yeah, 15.2. That looks about 15.2 if I've ever seen it. If you ever want to see your detailed stat breakdown, that will be in the stats screen. I still have to go through and update some other stats though, so you can come along, check that out too. It looked like there were only a couple of stats that I had not added to the stat screen, which is pretty poggies. This number doesn't look right. Let me see. Yeah, I guess I must have messed it up at some point because that did update correctly. But 104,000, have I even dealt that much damage? Oh, I have. Wow, I've dealt a lot, so that would be plus 10. Yep. Okay, well, cool, I guess. Wait, did that? I'll have to review the footage. I don't know if that took into account critical hits. So I reviewed the footage and it turned out that it didn't take into account critical hits. This video actually ended up being a lot longer than I anticipated. I thought I could get a ton of stuff done really quick, but I only really got the challenge stats and updating the stat screen done, so all the other stuff in that to-do list will be for a later video. If you liked the video, like it, I guess. Please. Also, if you like the content that I have produced so far, which has been this and the pinata video, please subscribe. That'd be pretty cool. Currently no one has subscribed because channel doesn't exist. It is physically impossible for you to have subscribed to this channel. So, break the laws of physics and hit that subscribe button. Also, wishlist the game on Steam. That'd be cool. And play the demo, that'd be pretty cool too. And if you do all of the stuff that I've just mentioned, that'd make you pretty cool. So, you're a cool guy, even if you don't do that stuff, you know? Made it this far. Comment down below, I'm a cool guy. Engage that algorithm. Stay cool, Commando heads.